We've got America's biggest gold producer, Newmont Mining, saying that prices may even reach $2,500 the ounce, driven by a weakening dollar and indeed Chinese appetite as well. Stephen Engle has been speaking to Newmont CEO Richard O'Brien.
There's a number of factors here which are going to be more than 1 quarter in sustenance, and I think that we're going to see probably up to 5+ years of similar themes that we're seeing today. What are those themes? Weaker U.S. dollar, continued worry about the U.S. dollar as a currency, continued worry about at least the southern part of the European Union, what's going to happen. And I think gold continues to trade more and more like a currency instead of like a commodity. And since it's the only currency in the world that no one can borrow against and no one can issue more of, it's the one currency that people can rely on to have value. So I see a lot of the perfect storm continuing.
How does that bull market then translate to prices? We already are at $1,800, $1,900 an ounce. How far can it go?
I think it's important to put in perspective where we are in the gold market. So we're about 12 years into a gold bull market. The cyclical nature of gold over many years, 10 years is the shortest cycle that we've had, not bull or bear, but the shortest cycle in total. So we're just a little bit beyond the shortest cycle. We still have a ways to go. So where do I think it's going to go? The other perspective, gold was $800 an ounce when it reached its peak historically. If we just nominally adjust that today, we're at $2,250 an ounce. So we haven't hit even the nominal historic high for gold. Where do I think it's going to go? I think $2,000 next year. I think we're going to continue to see a bullish market. That doesn't sound like a broad forecast, really bullish, when we're already at $1,850 and we've seen $1,900. But I think there's going to be a lot of volatility, Steve. I think that's the key point. Up, but volatile. But I think we're going to continue to see support for gold in that $1,850 range and above. I don't think there's a lot of downside.
How do you then see the continued buying from various central banks, particularly in China, as it loses confidence, some say, in the U.S. dollar?
Yeah, I think the Chinese have a particular problem holding as many U.S. dollars as they do. So they're both a big supporter of the U.S., but they also recognize that that support comes at a price. So how much, do you continue to support? Well, there's only so much the Chinese can do, I think, to help us. We have our own political issues that need to be resolved in Washington, D.C. Only we can do that in the U.S. In the meantime, I think we will see continued diversification, but even without central bank buying in China, it's important to recognize China is the #1 producer of gold in the world, from a number of small operations, but the #1 producer. They're now the 2nd largest consumer of gold in the world. And with that, there's immense pressure here. They actually are net deficit, so they're importing to meet the needs of what is a rapidly escalating demand for gold, and that's all happened in the last 7 years. The Shanghai Gold Exchange set up in 2005, and so price was fixed prior to that time by the government. You couldn't import or export. People couldn't hold gold bullion as an investment. All that's opened up. Can you imagine what's going to continue to happen here in China as people want to diversify their own portfolios? I think it's good for gold regardless of where the central banks end up.
How about in China here? What are the opportunities for you to expand?
Well, so we don't currently have operations in China. I think one of the things we would like to do over time is we think that China, like Russia, is probably a great place to explore, and we'd like to find some partners who are interested in doing that with us, Chinese partners who have a long-term interest in mining, gold mining and copper mining, and I think with that we can hopefully find some interest right here.
How about Mongolia?
Great prospects in Mongolia. There's a lot going on there, and they've had some innovative policies, and I think with Oyu Tolgoi, with a number of the other things going on in Mongolia, it probably over time will be a must-be place to be.